And we are live. Good evening po sa inyong lahat mga kaguro. And of course, welcome back to Gurong Pinoy. If you are watching us on YouTube, please don't forget to like this video. If this is the first time that you watch us, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you are watching us on Facebook, of course, please do like this video, share this video, tag your friends. You may also start a watch party, okay? Make sure that you also follow us on our Facebook page. We're also on Instagram. We're also on TikTok. We're also on Laika. So if you are on Laika, please do send us your Laika gems. Okay, so tonight we are coming back with part 4 of General Science. And of course, before we start with anything else, let us all have our opening prayer.
Let us pray. Our gracious God, thank you for this day. Your eternal essence is truly enough for us to understand things in this life. Though it is hard and confusing, but your grace is more abundant than fear and failure. Dear Lord, as we come together in your holy presence, we ask you guidance and protection for our online review. Please be with us, dear God, as you be with our loved ones. May you find us faithful in our devotion to you. Thank you, Jesus. You are our hope. Thank you, Holy Spirit. You are our teacher and comforter. All this we asked in the mighty name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, now again, we welcome back the members of our Gurong Pinoy teams. We already have 2 teams. That's Team Gardner. Of course, we also have our new team. That's Team Erickson. If you still don't know what I'm talking about, it's very easy for you to become a member of our teams. We are still accepting enrollees for our Let September 2021. All the details can be found on your screen. But if you'd want to become a member of our team today, okay, or maybe this week, we still have our promo, okay? So just ignore all those prices that you see on the screen right now. Our basic membership is only at 500 pesos. Your pro membership is also at 500 pesos. And of course, your premium membership, that's only at 850. So again, it's very cheap. We are the cheapest review center that you have, that you can find. And of course, this is for your upcoming let, okay? Hopefully, matuloy na po yung let nyo in September, okay? So again, Gurong Pinoy is here to guide you and to help you pass your let. So don't waste your time, okay? Please join us. All the materials that we have live stream is all of them are posted on our Gurong Pinoy teams, okay? So if you can become a member of Gurong Pinoy teams, go ahead and please join us. Just send us a message through our Facebook page. Now, you can also support us by becoming one of our supporters. Our supporters are having their exclusive meetings, okay? So usually we'd have one topic and we are going to discuss this. This is done in secret, no? So exclusive lamang ito sa ating mga supporters. So if you can also become a supporter, may button po dyan sa ating Facebook page. It's very near your chat box. You can become a supporter of Gurong Pinoy, and of course you have the exclusive entrance or exclusive tickets to our meetings. Now, another thing that you can do so that you can help support Gurong Pinoy is of course to send us your stars. This still is through Facebook. Malapit din po siya dyan sa supporters only button na meron po kayong send stars na button dyan. You can send any amount of stars now that's going to be linked to your PayPal, or it can also be linked to your GCash. Okay, so please do support us so that we can continue whatever it is that we are doing. We can continue helping you and we can continue guiding you so that you can pass your let. Okay, now we have here your schedule for May. Again, next Saturday, we are going to have Gen Ed and Prof Ed with me. That's from 6 p.m. That's May 1st, no? And then, of course, May 2nd, we are going to have Socksai with Coach Tina. And the rest of that, of course, we will be keeping you updated through our Facebook page. Your summer fever is going to be on May 22nd. Again, please do post or comment the names of your leaders, also the names of your contestants, so that we can already set everything up and set everything ready for your summer fever. All right, now again, please do make sure that you have already liked this video. Please do like this video. If you're watching us on YouTube, gano'n din po sa Facebook, i-share ang ating video, i-tag ng yung friends, start a watch party, react to this video, so that we can already start. Okay? Of course, today or tonight, we are back with the 4th installment of General Science with our prestigious speaker, one of the best lecturers that I have known. He was my subject area coordinator when I started teaching in Ateneo. He became my associate principal, and then eventually, now he is the basic education department or division, basic education, basic ed principal. Okay, now he is a licensed civil engineer. He has his master's in business administration. He also has his master's in guidance counseling. And of course, he has his master's in education. He has his PhD. I hope I did not forget anything. Please forgive me if I forgot something. Okay. And of course, he is a very good friend of mine. Most especially, he is my mentor. Okay. So he has helped me become what I am. Okay. So without further ado, I give you Doc H.
Hello. Let's check muna. Let's check muna if I can share my slides with you. My, let's see. I now have another device, no? So
Okay.
I can see the whole thing. Okay. Ayan. Is that okay? So thank you, Meg. Thank you for introducing me again. So it's kind of awkward, no? You being introduced by a good friend, no? For me, it's awkward because we know each other, no? We spent a lot of time. Then tapos you're formally introducing me. I don't know. It's like kind of weird. Anyway, so this is the last set, no? That's I science review for sana yan, no? Physics set 2. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. And today we will be discussing. This is a continuation of yesterday's discussion, and that's why I will start with 61. No? So we'd like to ask everyone to please pay attention, join us, make mistakes and enjoy making mistakes, and then enjoy also and celebrate now in getting your correct answer. So again, just to put everything in perspective, we're trying our best to go through that experience in taking the test. So we take the test that is time bound, and we hope that we can get about, I don't know, 60 or 70% of all questions right. But anyway, because this is not graded and this is not the actual let, so what is important is for us to learn along the way. Remember, the most important part here is not the answer, okay, but the process, and at the same time, the items, not the choices. That is why I'm trying my best to even elaborate some of the choices that are not the answers and understand the concepts. Okay, so when I say please help us, join us no, in giving the answers, I can now see the comment section here. And so I don't need to move the slide from one to the other. This is the first question. And as you can notice, I am focusing more on physics and chemistry, but it reverberates also no, on the topic regarding general science. Okay, so let's see. The first question is the center of gravity is the point where all the blank. And I think we are familiar with this. This is a topic in grade 7 and also in grade 10. I remember yesterday, may isa na nag-post na he said that this makes me remember of my 4th year high school. Exactly. No, exactly. That's what we are doing right now. And when I took my let also eons ago, that was what I thought. Imagine, no, I even thought na, hala, if my students took the test in let, no, especially on the science part, siguro baka they will also pass, no? Kasi it's more on reviewing your high school. Okay. So good evening, everyone. We have answers here. The first one who got the answer is Viodolo by. The answer is D for Viodolo. How about others? By the way, welcome to my room. No, this is my uh, sacred space. But anyway, I'm welcoming you all. So the answers. Okay, we have Viodolo answering Jasper Aladdin. Okay, and this is a good start. Okay, although others have a different answer. So let's see. The answer is D. And if you can notice in the picture, by the way, I took all the pictures from Google where the pictures are free, no? So wala tayong nakuha picture dito owned by and patented by others, no? Look at the center of gravity here. Now, the center of gravity is where the weight is assumed, no? It's not really there. That is the weight is not really there, but it's assumed to be concentrated. So if you look at it, the first one, the lower the center of gravity, the more stable it becomes. But when you lift your body a little bit, then the center of gravity goes up also. But if you move forward, the center of gravity moves forward, or also making you unstable. And that's why this position is difficult to do. No, so always imagine that the center of gravity is not constant. No, it moves depending on what is your position with respect to the ground. Okay, so it's where the weights are assumed to be concentrated. Ayan na naman, the number. So I tried to design this one to make it less frightening. So let's see. A man on top of a highly elevated hill throws a ball with a horizontal speed of 9 meters per second. So he threw the ball 9 meters per second horizontal. So the question is, what's the horizontal distance traveled after 3 seconds? Okay? Sir, hindi naman sinabi how high the hill is. It doesn't matter. Okay, tinatanong lang, if the person, of the man, throws it horizontally, ano yung horizontal distance after 3 seconds if the horizontal speed thrown is 9 meters per second? Okay, by the way, if you write your answer in the chat box, please make sure to place also the number. Okay, the item number. Congratulations for those who got it right in number 1. Let's go to number 2 or number 62. There's an answer here already for Azlig. Zola. So A, Ricarla, A, Viodolod D, Gladys A. Okay, remember, always imagine that the person throwing it is on top of the hill, throwing it horizontally. So anong mangyayari sa object? So it will move eventually down, no? With the direction of forward and downward, and put it together, so you have a parabolic direction of the projectile. But what is the distance, the horizontal distance from the hill? Okay, we have D and A. Nagbabanggaan si D and A. So the answer here is, D. So how did we solve for letter D? So we multiplied, kasi di ba, when you talk about horizontal distance, remember in a projectile motion, the horizontal motion is a normal average, constant velocity. So meaning to say, if we solve for the distance is simply the rate times the time, and the rate here is 9 meters per second multiplied to the time, which is 3 seconds. So 9 times 3 is 27. Okay, please take note of that. So we just multiplied 9 and 3 because that's how we get the distance. Distance is equal to the speed and the time it takes, no, for that speed to move. Okay, so we are looking at the horizontal distance, the R here, no? That's what is being asked. Let's go to number 63. Number 63 talks about electromagnetic waves. So it says here, this electromagnetic wave is sometimes thought to be part of gamma ray, has helped much in the area of radiology, so maraming clues there, and has the least amount of wavelength, save gamma. So least amount of wavelength except for gamma. So there are 3 clues. Ano kaya ang klaseng EM wave to, or electromagnetic wave? Number 63. Is it microwave A, radio wave B, ultraviolet ray C, or X-ray D? Okay, 63 na tayo. Electromagnetic wave. Okay, answers? It has helped much in the area of radiology. Okay, so that's a big clue. It's a big clue. Okay, and it has the least amount of wavelength except for gamma. So who knows, baka in the question, it will not give you the clue na has helped much in the area of radiology, because that's almost a giveaway clue, no? So what is important if you know what this wave is all about? The answers are coming in. Many of the answers are D, pero merong B din. So take note that it has helped much in the area of radiology. Okay. Okay. So many answered B, maybe because of the term radiology. So maybe that's the reason why the person who made this item also placed radiology as a term. That is me palang gumawa. So radiology, kasi it also confuses, no, the exam taker. So even if it has helped much in the area of radiology, it doesn't mean that the wave is a radio wave. So that is why the answer here is X-ray. Okay, X-ray is the one that we use, no, in the area of radiology. Although radio wave is also part of it. We also use that wave in the area of radiology, but X-ray has helped much in that area also, and it's near gamma ray. But the wavelength is so small that only gamma ray has the smaller wavelength. No, so here's this item talks about magnetic spectrum, no, the electromagnetic spectrum. When you talk about the electromagnetic spectrum, sabi nga ni Maxwell, when you talk about wave, ang dami-dami nun, light is just one of it, no? So this is the spectrum na tinatawag nila. There's no end, no? It goes to the right and to the left. We don't know what is to the extreme right, to the extreme left yet. But if we talk about, for example, wavelength, the one with the shortest wavelength is gamma ray. And next to that is X-ray. Okay, here, X-ray. If you go to the left, the one with the longest wavelength is radio wave. You have here. Okay, followed by microwave and then infrared. Look, in the electromagnetic spectrum, the visible light, the one that we can see, is just here, small strip in the spectrum. So, philosophically, many people are even saying, what is reality even? No, kasi the things that we see is just a small amount in the things that we cannot see, but they still exist. Another thing very important in this spectrum is what are the things that are related to, or inventions or equipment or items, no, that are related to it. Because sometimes in some questions, bibigyan ka ng isang item, for example, microwave oven, or let's say radar. Anong klaseng wave? No, what wave that has to do with radar science, no? Or what about light bulb, no? To what extent is that? No, as you can see, light bulb is in between visible and infrared. Okay, because infrared has to do with heat. No, infrared has to do with heat. So that's why light bulb, you have the light there, visible light, but at the same time you can feel the heat. And remember, meron tayong tawag na mga infrared goggles. No? So infrared goggles is so sensitive to heat. Okay, and the heat wave. No, so the infrared wave that it emits. No, take note of this. No, ang maraming mga inputs na you can get in Google. This is very available. A lot. 64. Sorry, I made shelf. It's okay. Number 64 pa lang tayo. We started with 61. A rubber stopper whirled in circular motion makes 10 rotations in 5 seconds. 10 rotations in 5 seconds. So anong period of the motion? Okay? We cannot solve this one immediately by solving the period. We have to solve one first that is necessary in order to solve for the period. Remember, yesterday we talked about the relationship between period and frequency. So apparently, number 64, you can place your answers there already. In number 64, we need to solve for the frequency first, and the inverse of frequency is the period. So, ano yung Corazon already has an answer, which is C, and Dan is A. So, as what I've said, how to get the period? Period is the inverse of frequency, meaning we need to get the value of frequency first. And so the answer here is 0.5. Paano? Frequency is 10 over 5. 10 rotations in 5 seconds, which is 2. So the frequency is 2 hertz. Diba? but we are asked to get the period, and the period is the inverse of frequency, which is 1 over 2. And 1 over 2 is equal to 0.5 seconds. So the answer is A. Okay? So please don't forget the relationship between frequency and period. So they are inverse. No? So if period is 2, meaning frequency is 1/2. If period is 3, meaning frequency is 1/3. If period is 2/3, therefore frequency is 3/2. So and also the same thing the other way around. Okay, number 65. Okay, 65. Please don't forget in your answer to place the number first and then the answer, the letter. A brass rod is 100 cm long. So 100 cm is 1 meter also, no? At 10 degrees centigrade. At 45 degrees centigrade, it is blank. Bent at the middle, longer, of the same length, or shorter. Okay. Analyze this. Meron kang brass rod, 1 metro ang haba, or 100 cm, at 10 degrees centigrade. But at 45 degrees centigrade, meaning uminit, it is blank. Anyari? Okay, Dad, sorry, I need to, sometimes I lost breath without drinking water, or in this case, Coke. Dan B, Corazon A, Alvi A, thank you for your answers. Yan. Oh, you can give your comments also. You can even question the answer if you want so that I can explain it more. If you cannot understand my explanation, please be more helpful by telling us, no, through the chat box how to explain it more. Or maybe if you want to contest the answer, it's okay. So 65, anong nangyayari if I change the question, parang tinatanong lang naman, anong mangyayari sa isang brass rod if nag-increase yung temperature? Okay? Parang ganun lang naman ang tanong, no? In this case, 10 degrees centigrade to 45. So our answer is, of course, hahaba. Diba? Hahaba siya. If everything is constant, tapos the temperature is increased, then hahaba siya. But take note, no? This is true to most of the things existing on Earth. Kaya lang, may mga exemptions tayo. For example, yung ice, no? Ang ice, after 4 degrees centigrade, ang ice, when the temperature lowers, no? The ice becomes bigger. So yun yung ano, that's why ice floats, di ba? So that's the only exemption I can think of. The rest, if the temperature lowers down, tapos the object shrinks. If the temperature increases, the object expands. So more than the answer here, more than the brass rod or the 1 meter long brass rod or the temperature 10 to 45, is the main concept of linear expansion, even volumetric expansion. That says when the temperature increases, the length or the volume increases also. If the temperature decreases, the length of the volume also decreases. So that's the main idea here. Okay, let's go to 66. No, in application with that concept, let's see if you get the right answer. Long concrete roads are constructed within gaps at certain intervals. Why? To allow the expansion and contraction of the cement, to break the monotony of smooth driving during long trips, to prevent the skidding of cars during heavy rains, or to provide drainage for rainwater. Okay? Hi, Ma'am Narana. So number 66, what's your answer? Si Dan, immediately, no? May sagot na, A. This is in application with number 65. A, si Ma'am Kans, no? Bakit S yung answer? Sige, Corazon A. Okay, I think majority have the same answer. So the answer is A, of course. So roads like this don't just break because of earthquake, no? Or maybe because of too much water. In fact, too much water is also an expression. If it breaks because of too much water under it, it's also an expression of thermal expansion because maybe it expands or it contracts. So look at this rail. No, this railroad also bends because of the temperature change. That is why in some roads merong ganito, or in some roads like here in the Philippines, meron tayong mga gaps, no, in every plank of the road or series of the road. So the reason is to allow the expansion and contraction of the cement. This you can see most of the time in bridges. Okay? So whenever you see this one again, if you're not aware of it, now you're aware. So whenever you see this one again, think about thermal expansion. I remember in our building, in one span of our building, tatlong buildings yon. It looks like one, pero tatlo yon. In between those buildings are small gaps, no, mga 1-inch gap. So that if the building expands because of increase of temperature, especially during lunchtime, then it will not break each other. It will just expand a little bit and then go back paggabi, no? Kasi it shrinks paggabi because the temperature lowers. So very simple concept and we know that already, no? Pero kung minsan, when it is already applied, no, to for example, we are pressured with time, no, during the exam, kung minsan nakakaligtaan ng simple na concept na yan. Okay, 67. Another concept that we need to embrace and perfect is absolute zero concept. So in this item, absolute zero may be regarded as that temperature at which all gases become liquids, all substances are liquids, molecular motion in a gas would be theoretically impossible, or water freezes. What do you think is the answer? Number 67, in absolute zero. Congratulations for those who answered correctly, number 66. Okay. Remember, our attempt is to get more than half, no, at least, no, for this review, more than half of the items. So, yan, Dan has the answer again. C, at least for Dan. How about others? Jasper D, Biodolo D, absolute zero, the concept of absolute zero. Another concept that we need to perfect, no? So may D, may C. Merong debate with C and D. Shelby C, Jenny C. Okay, Marifel, maraming C, C, and D. Let's see. The answer is C. So absolute zero is a concept, theoretical concept in fact. You will never reach that, no? Kasi absolute zero is where the place where molecules are not moving anymore. That includes even its subatomic particles, theoretically speaking. Pero sabi nga nila, it's a theory, pero mahirap i-reach yun kasi if there's an absolute zero in that vicinity and area, what about the container that it is where it is, no? Ano mangyayari sa container where it is? So medyo may mga maraming strings of questions if that one is being questioned to exist or not. But the point remains that when we talk about absolute zero, remember always that during that time, molecules and even its subatomic particles are theoretically not moving anymore. Therefore, wala siyang energy. Walang potential, walang kinetic energy in an object that is in absolute zero, although theoretical. So look, in an absolute zero, in the picture, you can see that it is represented if you use Kelvin, that is 0 Kelvin. Na-notice yung Kelvin walang degree because Kelvin is in an absolute value, no? That starts from 0, walang negative Kelvin, and it goes up. Of course, in centigrade, absolute zero is represented by negative 273 degrees centigrade. In engineering, no, the value is minus 273.15 degrees centigrade, especially in chemistry or in biology. That's how they represent it, to be exact. But negative 273 would suffice. When you reach 0 degrees centigrade, water freezes, and that's 273 Kelvin already for in the Kelvin scale. But but we are already into metric system. What about Fahrenheit? You will never know. You really need to review how to convert Fahrenheit to Kelvin or Fahrenheit to centigrade and vice versa, because who knows, it might be asked still. Or at least kahit papano, alam niyo how to compare. No? For example, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, you don't need to compare it with centigrade. Alam mo na 0 degrees centigrade dyan. Another thing to memorize is the boiling point of water in Fahrenheit. So that's 212. Nonetheless, the lowest of it all is called absolute zero. Okay, sir, what is the highest temperature? We don't know yet, no? So I think thousands yan. Ang temperature ng lightning is higher than the temperature of the sun, but we don't know really kung anong highest temperature. Maybe yung mga bigger suns or bigger stars also have higher temperatures. But the lowest, even the whole universe is called absolute zero. Importanteng concept yon, okay? Let's go to this one answers. Even well, we talk about freezing point kanina. So here, I hope we get the right answer, number 68. The freezing point of water is 0 degrees centigrade. Ano ngayon ang melting point niya? If the freezing point of water, what's its melting point? So Dan Lang is talking about superfluids. Yeah. We're talking about, by the way, superconductivity is another concept in terms of absolute zero. That is, di ba, ang conductors natin of electricity or of heat, they work better in, especially conductor of electricity, they work better at lower temperature. But the present scientists now are trying their best, mga material scientists, to look for a superconductor that can work at normal temperature. That's one of the holy grails of physics. Anyway, please give me your answers in number 68. Viodolo is saying B. Anong freezing point ng water? If the anong melting point ng water if the freezing point is 0 degrees centigrade? Okay? This is one example na sinasabi ko, no, we should be comfortable with Fahrenheit, Kelvin, centigrade. Another temperature is Rankine, no? Rankine, which is 460 plus, you compute it by adding 460 to your Fahrenheit. So we have B, okay, that's correct. Wherever is your freezing point, that's also the melting point. We're talking about water here, but the concept is the same. If the freezing point of a particular solution is, let's say, 5 degrees centigrade, that is also the melting point of that solution. Okay, take note of that. The same thing, no? Kung saan ang boiling point, that's also the point where it condenses, no? So, for example, if the boiling point of water is 100 degrees centigrade, the condensation point of water, where it moves from gas to liquid, is also at 100 degrees centigrade, assuming that everything is constant. Okay? Now, number 69, thank you for your answers. Correct. Okay, B. When a freon, a refrigerant in your refrigerator or aircon, condenses into a liquid, what happens? Kung nagko-condense ang freon in the refrigerator into a liquid, meaning to say from gas to liquid, what happens? It absorbs heat, it produces heat, it releases heat, or nothing happens. It's also one way of saying, during condensation, ano bang nangyayari? So nilagyan na natin ng refrigerator freon to make it more applicable to real life. Pero the simple question is, during condensation, what happens? Okay. Sige, number 69, I need answers. And maybe, no, don't hesitate to please write some explanations in your answers if you want to. So kung may freon ka inside the refrigerator and it condenses into a liquid, what happens? Rephrase it. I can, rephrasing rephrasing a stem or an item in the test also helps you understand or answers the whole item better. So that's one thing I'd like to challenge you. 69. So the answer is it releases heat. Okay. Bakit release? No. Remember, condensation is the transference from gas to liquid. So remember, the temperature increases when you move from solid to liquid to gas. But if you move from gas to liquid to solid, ang temperature nagdi-decrease. So in order for temperature to decrease, to change phase also, instead of absorption, you have to release heat. No? So dapat freon must release heat in order for freon to turn from gas to liquid. Diba? Always imagine that in gas form, the molecules are moving very fast. So you have to slow them down in order for the molecules to eventually transform or change phase from gas to liquid. And in order for you to slow them down, you have to release the temperature. The reason why molecules are moving is because of the heat or because of the temperature. So this is confusing kasi pwedeng absorb, pwedeng release. By the way, uh, in the items, clearly B and D, parang mas malaki yung possibility that B and D are not the answers because A and C are opposite to each other. So maganda yon even though for those who answered A, that's a good approximation kasi it's either A or C. But take note, we need to understand the concept of condensation to again for us to get the right answer. So condensation means release of heat, evaporation means absorption of heat. Okay? If you're talking about melting, let's say, so if nagme-melt, that's also release of heat in order for, melting is from solid to liquid pala. So that is absorption of heat. So the object melts because you keep on absorbing heat and then eventually it becomes liquid from solid. Now, so when it solidifies liquid to solid, so it also it must release heat. Okay, so here, to make it clearer, so for the water vapor to change to liquid water and liquid water to change into solid water or ice, heat must be released here. For the solid water to change to liquid water and to change to water vapor, then heat must be absorbed. Okay, and this is true to all other elements. No, it's the same if you are talking about steel or oil. No? So take note of this. Some of us work better when we see pictures like this. So you can capture this picture, print it out, kung seryoso talaga kayo to understand the whole thing, then post it in your walls. No? Kasi sometimes it's difficult to forget if we can picture it out in our memory. Okay? Aladdin asked, Doc, it happens ba during our ref? Super unit, yes, sa refrigerator, good thing you asked that, Aladdin. In our refrigerator, meron tayong condenser, diba? Ang condenser usually, refrigerator and air conditioner, nandyan sa likod. That's why when you turn it on, you can feel the heat sa likod. What is happening is we release heat. Diba? The heat that you can feel at the back of your refrigerator, yung coil na yan, that's your condenser, that heat is coming from inside. So heat is absorbed by condensation and thrown away at the back of your refrigerator so that everything inside the refrigerator will become lower in temperature. Okay? For it to be cold, the heat inside should be sucked up through condensation and released outside. So simple concept lang no, refrigeration. That's what refrigeration, the science of refrigeration is all about. Thank you, Aladdin, for asking that. Maybe related to that is number 70. On cold mornings, you shiver. Medyo maginaw, no? When you hold a metal doorknob, especially if you're in Baguio, my God, or in Bukidnon, no? Early in the morning. So the metal doorknob becomes cold because everything around you is equally cold, or the doorknob is warmer than your hand, or your hand absorbs the coldness of the doorknob, or your hand loses heat to the colder doorknob. What do you think is the right answer? Si Viodolo, pinapatuyo niya yung medyas sa ref. Oh, that's correct. Sa likod ng ref, Viodolo, I presume hindi sa loob. So now, when we look at the ref, talking about 69, also number 70 here, remember always the heat at the back of the ref is the product of condensation. No? That's the heat there is the heat inside being sucked by the ref, in fact sucked by the freon as it condenses and then thrown out. Okay, number 70, Dan has an answer already. D. What about others? C. So the other way of saying this is, bakit when you touch the doorknob, especially early in the morning, bakit it feels cold? Anong nangyayari? What's the science behind it? Ganun yung simple tanong. Izay is C, Corazon D, Jenny D, Aladdin C, sige. Sige, si Michjo, Cans, Z. Ano kaya? Okay, please don't forget also when you take the test, yung deductive method. If there are two items that are contradicting with each other, there's high likelihood that that might be the answer. One of the two might be the answer, but that's not all the time, of course. Okay, so let's see. The answer is D. The second law of thermodynamics says, the first law is conservation of heat. No, the second law states that, in simple terms, that the heat moves from hot to cold. So heat moves from hot to cold, not from cold to hot. Ano pa? Meaning nito, ang nagmo-move is heat, not cold. No, there's no such thing as coldness in physics. No, heat lang, heat. So kung mainit ang lugar na yan, meaning molecules are moving very fast. Kung maginaw, meaning molecules are moving less fast. So in this case, when you hold the doorknob, maginaw siya because your hand is hotter than the doorknob. So when you touch the doorknob, the heat in your hand flows to the doorknob. Hot to cold, remember? That's the second law of thermodynamics, not the other way around. So when you touch the doorknob, the heat in your hand goes to the doorknob. Your hand, therefore, because it loses heat, it becomes colder. Okay? Very important concept to. Kasi yung iba, akala nila, naging cold because cold yung doorknob. No. Naging cold siya because your heat is being taken by the doorknob, therefore your temperature lowers. Parang ganito rin. Most of us, when we open the refrigerator, say, wag mo i-open kasi baka yung cold will enter. Baka yung cold will go out. No? Will go out from the ref. In fact, what is happening is, instead of the cold going out, it's the heat outside coming in the refrigerator that you avoid. So you don't open the refrigerator that often because you don't want the heat outside to go inside the ref, because the ref is supposed to be cold. It's not the cold in the ref going outside, although that's how many of us thought it to be. Remember again, second law of thermodynamics states that the temperature moves from hot to cold. It's not from cold to hot. No, there's no such thing as that. But ano yung mga other application nito? For example, bagyo, no, or wind. No, wind is produced because of difference in temperature. Wind moves from hot area to cold area. If the whole Earth has the same temperature, then there's no wind at all, just like the moon. Okay? So take note always that heat travels from hot to cold, or molecules travel from hot to cold. Okay. 71. When 20 joule of lawn mowing work is accomplished in 5 seconds, the amount of power used is. Yes, Aladdin, no? Maling kasabihan ng, hindi naman, we cannot blame them that one, but the science take note, no? Anak, lalabas ang lamig, no? Even sa aircon room mo, hindi lumalabas ang lamig, but ang init enters. So kung mainit, syempre, your aircon or your refrigerator needs to work more. Kasi yun yung job ng aircon, di ba? Or ng refrigerator, sucking the heat inside and throwing it out using condensation. Okay, number 71 na tayo. Babalik tayo sa classical mechanics. When 20 joules of lawn mowing work is accomplished in 5 seconds, the amount of power used is. So si Dan is saying C. Sa inyo na kayo, medyo sinisipon ako. Alvi, C. Okay. So, ang sagot, correct, C. Remember, no? More than the answer, remember the concept of power. Maraming mga equation ng power. May power na equation na VI, for example, and that is for electromagnetism. Here, this is power in the context of classical mechanics. Power is work over time. That's one equation. But work is also FD. So pwede may power is FD over time. Force times distance over time. Or pwede MGH. No? Power is MGH over time. So depende kung ano yung given. Take note of that. No? So thank you. All of us, almost all of us have the answer. Ito. Number 72. This is radioactivity. After 12 days, the mass left from a 100-gram radioactive isotope having a half-life of 3 days is. So what is the mass of the 100-gram radioactive isotope if its half-life is 3 days? So ano yung mass niya after 12 days? Okay, number 72. Remember ang half-life, ang concept ng half-life? When you say half-life ng isang object, say is 10 days, that means every 10 days as it exists, ang mass niya nagre-reduce to half of its mass. Okay? That's why it's half-life. So, what's our answer? Pakilagay yung number when you answer it. Number 72. So, may A, may C. May ba tayo ng sagot? Okay. So, may mga half-life questions na medyo complicated siya, no? It needs to be computed using the calculator. But I chose this one para maintindihan natin ang concept ng half-life more. At least for those who are not familiar with this or would like to review this. So answers are C, A. Let's see, no? This is a very cute concept. And this has to do with isotopes, no? So the answer is A. And A here is solved by dividing, no? Every day kasi, so it starts with 100 gram. But take note, kung radioactivity ang pag-uusapan, every half-life, nagre-reduce yung mass niya by half. So 3 days, 50 grams. Kasi 3 days ang half-life. So 6 day niya, 25 na lang siya, half of 50. 9 days, 12.5, half of 25. At the 12th day, naging 6.25 na lang siya, which is half of 12.5. So that's how we solve number 72. Again, ang sarap, no? Kasi kung hindi familiar kayo sa computation na to, or sa concept ng isotope or half-life, now medyo clearer sa atin, then it becomes an easy job. No? Easier siya. And that's the wisdom of reviewing. Okay? So Isai says, I think A. Yeah, what you think is correct, Isai. Okay, let's go to number 73. Let's go to cosmology. You are in a black hole. If everything is in black and white, the place is brighter than normal, there's a star exploding, or things around you are denser. So let's talk about black holes. Nasa black hole ka, if what? So this is one way to ask if you know the concept of black hole. Let's see. So Dan answered D. Same with Alvi. Karen also. Okay. So yeah, black hole is neither black or white because you know sa black hole, diba, even light is being sucked, no? So you cannot see talaga. There's no color involved. In fact, black is not a color at all. No, the place is brighter than normal. That is wrong because there's no light at all, right? And there's a star exploding. Black hole is a product, among others, of star that has exploded, and eventually, after explosion, it goes back and it contracts because of gravity, and because it's so dense, it creates the black hole. No? Sometimes, no, yung mga supernova. So A, B, C are wrong, but letter D is correct. No, things around you are denser, and you're being sucked by it. A lot of things I can discuss more about the black hole. Yeah, especially Penrose. No, Penrose got the Nobel Prize, no, because and together with two others who proved it proved it experimentally, no, the existence of well, not just the existence, but the science of black hole. So yeah, so that's Roger Penrose. And that's last year yan, ha? Last year yan, si Roger Penrose. Maybe that will be asked from you. Sino yung scientist na naka-receive ng Nobel Prize in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, because of the concept of black hole? Okay, so let's go to 74. Heat, no? Heat is directly proportional to temperature. So I mean to say, the higher the heat, the higher the temperature. The lower the heat, the lower the temperature. That's the concept of direct proportionality, di ba? What is the exemption, however? So unless blank. So heat is directly proportional to temperature unless blank. An object changes its phase, an object undergoes biological reaction, temperature increases, or the object evaporates directly from solid form. Okay, that's number 74. Answers, please. Okay, I can see some answers yet. So heat is directly proportional to temperature. Habang tumataas ang heat, tumataas ang temperature, naglo-lower ang heat, naglo-lower ang temperature. Pero may exemption. Ano yung exemption natin? So meron tayo ditong BD, BD. So BD. Parang DVD. So B or D, yun yung medyo divided tayo. Ano kaya? Okay? So the answer is A. So heat is directly proportional to temperature, but the exemption that this does not happen is during its change of phase. Okay, change of phase. Okay, let's explain it why. So this is if the y-axis is temperature and the x-axis is the heat supplied, it shows in this graph that the greater the heat absorbed, the higher the temperature. The greater the heat released, the lower the temperature. Diba? So direct proportional. However, there are points here where it is moving flat. Meaning to say, in this case, the latent heat of fusion and the latent heat of vaporization, it shows, by the way, this is example for water. Here, even if heat is absorbed, but temperature remains the same. Here, even if heat is absorbed, but temperature remains the same. In fact, this is not on scale kasi the latent heat of fusion for water is 80, and the latent heat of vaporization of water is about 490, no? So dapat mas mahaba to kasi dito, no? By 5 times or 4 or 6, no? But anyway, but suffice it to say that only when it changes phase. Here, in the latent heat of fusion, that's 0 degrees centigrade, the water molecules change from solid to liquid. Or if the heat is released, it changes from liquid to solid. So in order for that phase to change, kailangan mag-absorb ng heat. Okay? In order for solid to become liquid. And kailangan mag-release ng heat in order for liquid to turn into solid. And while it is trying to turn from one phase to the other, okay, meron tayong temperature released or absorbed here na the heat absorbed or released here, the temperature remains. Okay, don't forget these concepts. Okay, also the concept of specific heat. No, the concept of specific heat talks about the direct proportionality of the kind of object. No, how fast it increases its temperature as you absorb or release heat. So every object merong specific heat na tinatawag. The ability to increase its temperature as it absorbs heat. Okay? Now, so that's the concept. Number 75. Okay. Tinuro pala ni Ma'am Mek to, pero nakalimutan. Bakit may genocide sa text, Alvi? Anyway, sige. Number 75. The electrons of an atom, blank, are bound to it permanently, some distance away from the nucleus of more mass, or maybe positively or negatively charged. Okay? Remember, we're talking about classics here, no? Siyempre, baka ma-confusing iba, especially for letter D answer. Bakit may comment on genocide? I'm curious. Okay. 75B daw, sabi ni Dan. What about others? B for Gamer TV. Who's the Gamer TV? Okay. How about others? I will proceed to the answer. Christine B. The answer is B. No? Although Dan, you're not really incorrect because meron tayong positron, which is the positive electron with positively charged. Kaya lang here, we're talking about generics, no? The general things. So, not quantum mechanics. So, electrons in general, okay, are some distance away from the nucleus. Uh, and electrons are not bound permanently because they flirt around, no? Protons do, unless otherwise it's nuclear fusion or fission. Now, why? Take note that electrons are on the outer portion of the shell, and that's why they easily flirt around from one atom to the other. Okay, they're less faithful compared to protons and neutrons. Now, this one, the one at the upper left, is the classical representation of the atom. But we know naman in the higher physics that atoms are really expressed this way more. This is more exact, no? Hindi not exactly accurate, but this is how atoms really work, no? Hindi yung circular yung motion na parang plane. It's organized, but it looks like this, no? Merong mga electrons that are moving at the inner circle, merong electrons that are moving in the outer circle. These electrons are highly likely to transfer, no? And in the context of electricity, they're the ones producing electric flow. But as to this item, take note that if the atom is as small as this one, okay, let's say 2-inch radius thick, okay, the electron in that the nucleus pala is as small as this one, the electron is 2 miles away. That's how far the electron is in an atom. So meaning, that's why I will not blame people to say that atoms are made up of vacuum more than solids, no? More than the electrons and protons. That's correct, because even the distance of the electron to the nucleus, it's really far. And that's why electrons can flirt around very easily. So imagine natin yan. We are all made up of atoms, and the atoms are made up of neutrons, protons, and electrons. And of course, these are all made up of quarks. So, but if ganito kaliit yung nucleus, the electron is 2 miles away from it. Imagine, no, gaano ka spacious or vacuum ang isang atom. Number 76. Pag wrong kami lahat, sir, genocide pa. Sorry. Genocide para kung lang lahat. That's your language. 76. The ammeter is an instrument that measures an electrical system's what? Okay. So ano ang mini-measure ng ammeter? Difference in potential, electric pressure, flow of electron, or resistance offered to the flow of electrons. Okay? So genocide pala, no? Ang tawag kung maling lahat. Makes sense. Okay, the ammeter. Answers please. Meron tayong ammeter, may ohmmeter, may voltmeter, may galvanometer, maraming meter. But these are instruments. And sometimes in the test maker would like to know if you know also, remember, in science, half of which is experimentation. That's why sometimes we're asked if we are familiar with some of its instruments. Okay? So may mga D, may mga B, may mga A, guess. Remember, not all the time that the rule, sinasabi nila kung saan yung pinakamahaba, yun yung possible answer. Not all the time that it's true. This is one example. So the answer is, thank you for your answers, the answer is C. Okay? So difference in potential is voltmeter. So letter A, to measure the difference in potential or potential difference, or EM, electromagnetic force, that is voltmeter. That's the instrument. Okay. Electric pressure, there's another instrument for that. Resistance offered to the flow of electrons, another one. I think ohmmeter. But the answer here is the one that measures the flow of electron is ammeter, electron flow. Sometimes you're asked, what's the difference between an ammeter and galvanometer? Now, both measure electric flow, okay? Only that galvanometer is more sensitive than ammeter, and ammeter can be digital, galvanometer cannot be digital, okay? So take note of those instruments, okay? Number 77. A metal wire with a resistance of 20 ohms and a potential difference of 220 volts will have a current of what? Okay. So, medyo computation tayo ngayon. This is an application of Ohm's law, which I will explain later. So, meron kang metal wire na may resistance na 20 ohms. Okay. So, that resistance, no? The unit of resistance. And then potential difference, other term for potential difference is electromotive force or voltage. And that potential difference is 220. We'll have a current of what? So, current ang hinahanap. Ano kaya yung sagot ng madlang people in 77? Goosebumps if I use madlang people. Sorry, so I will not use that again. 77, Jenny said D. Ano kaya? Please remember, go back to Ohm's law in this case. So, marami tayong equations sa electricity and magnetism. But there are some questions na automatic, alam natin by just knowing kung ano yung unknowns at saka nung kinahanap, we can already answer. No? Oh, thank you, Dan. So, voltage is voltage is IR. IR ba? Okay, VI. Yeah, that's V cos IR. Okay, and therefore, the answer is 11 amperes. Okay, 11 amperes. How did we solve for 11 amperes? Kasi hinahanap dito, current. And current is A. Or sometimes in the equation, we call that letter I. No? I is the term in the equation used to represent current. So I, or A, amperes, is equal to V over ohms. I is V over R, no, ang ohms, no? Which is 220 divided by 20. That is 11 amperes. Letter B is the answer, correct. And now, maybe to add more, ang sinabi kanina na ni Dan na that voltage is IR. If you're in this case, we are asked to get the I, so that's V over R. But sometimes we're asked to get the resistance, and that's V over I. Now, what is the concept of this? Now, remember bulbs, for example, in this system, bulbs light up because the electron flows from the battery. The battery moves the electrons to the bulb. Part of that kinetic energy is converted to heat and light by the bulb. Then the remaining ones go back to the battery. So it's the battery that turns the bulb on because of the flow of electricity. Now, in this case, I love this one. No? This is popular. If you look at if you Google it, this is how they use in order to represent Ohm's law. So the Ohm is the one that stops the amp to go out, to flow, no? To flow in the vacuum, in this case, in the flow area. But the volt is the one pushing the amp to move forward. So the higher the volts, the greater the amps, meaning the higher the voltage, the greater the current flow. But the current flow is stopped by the resistance. So, the greater the resistance, the slower the flow. Diba? So, ang ganda ng representation. But this means mathematically is I is equal to V over R, or all these three. Okay, take note of the equation. Okay, now number 78. A wire 5 meters long compared to a wire 10 meters long will have a resistance of blank. Okay, this one, although there are values, but you don't even need to compute it. So, just try to analyze the concept, number 78. Please don't forget to place the number and then your letter, your answer. A wire 5 meters long compared to a wire 10 meters long will have a resistance of blank. Okay? Answers, please. So, we're talking about, you go back to the Ohm's law, baka pwede siyang ma-use as concept to analyze this number 78. We're right on time, no? So that's why, ang ganda pala kung medyo hindi masyado marami yung items mo. I think we will end at 105. So, Corazon answered A. Makjo ba to? Makjo A. Corazon B. Alvi B. Christine A. Divided na naman tayo. Jessie B. A and B, no? So, Izay A. So, meron kang 5 meter long compared to 10 meter long. Saan? Ang 5 meter long ba will have a resistance that is longer or shorter or many times as much? Saan ba? The other way of asking is, saan ba ang mas malaki yung resistance? The one with the shorter wire or the one with the longer wire? Okay? So, sometimes, well, that's one way of seeing it. Okay, Rowena A, Rachel A, Tots A. Let's see. 78, the answer is A. Okay. The resistance of wire 5 meter long is 1/2 of the resistance of the wire 10 meters long. Remember that resistance has to do with the stopping of the electricity, no, of the electrons flowing. So, meaning to say, the longer the wire, the greater the resistance. So, imagine nyo lang, no, kung meron kang wire na 1 kilometer long, kahit 220 volts pa yan, saksak mo sa other end. So, when it goes to you, if you're on the other end of the wire, the electricity becomes less, no? The current becomes less because as it flows 1 kilometer away, the molecules of that copper wire, if it's made up of copper, will stop the current from flowing. So kaya hindi pwede na ang wire very long. Okay? That's why meron tayong mga transformers, no, to boost the voltage para to push the electrons to move forward. Kasi kung ang wire natin diretso from the generator, then maybe if you're very far from the generator, you will not feel the electricity flowing anymore because of resistance. So this is the equation. Resistance is directly proportional to resistivity. That is this one, the rho. Take note, resistivity depends on the kind of wire you have. No, if the wire is an insulator, then mataas yung resistivity. If the wire is a conductor, then mababa yung resistivity. But also take note that resistance or resistivity, this is the resistivity constant. Resistivity or coefficient pala. Resistance is directly proportional to length. And what is the meaning of this? The longer the length, the greater the resistance. Okay? This one is the cross-sectional area of the wire. Now, the greater the cross-sectional area of the wire, okay, the lesser the resistivity. So take note of that. No? Sometimes that's what I do. No, I go back to the equation for me to see the relationship among concepts. Number 79, the only degree temperature that is the same in centigrade and Fahrenheit is Miss Loreto, may napansin ako? May napansin ka? Jessie, lakas naman. Saan ka? Nako, may pinag-usapan na kayo. Sige. Number 79, focus. Okay. 79, Dan answered it A. How about others? Anong temperature that is the same numerically in centigrade and Fahrenheit? Okay. Sige. I will move forward. Llewellyn A. So the answer is A. And this is trivial. But, sometimes it is being asked. Anong temperature lang? Remember, iba yung temperature value in centigrade and Fahrenheit. But there's that point where it's the same, no? So, negative 40 degrees centigrade is equal to negative 40 degree Fahrenheit. Let's go to number 80. Thank you for your answers. Okay, do not forget that the equation to to convert centigrade to Fahrenheit and vice versa. Number 80, let's go to electromagnetism. The strength of an electromagnet depends on the blank. Ferromagnetic nature of the core, number of turns, strength of the current, or all of the above. The answers, please. Number 80. Number 80. Focus tayo mga anak. Okay? The strength of an electromagnet depends on what? So, maybe the other way of asking is, what are the factors affecting the strength of an electromagnet? Okay, what is an electromagnet? Ito yung may coil where electricity flows and then meron kang magnet that is moved inside it. As you continue to move that magnet inside the coil where electricity flows, you induce electricity. So that is the concept of generator and electromagnetism. You also create magnetism, no? Well, that one. Remember, magnetism and electricity are one and the same. That's why we call it electromagnetism. So the answers are coming in, and you're right in the bud. The answer is all of the above. Electricity is induced whenever, and it depends on the kind of core. When you say core, okay, wala ditong picture ng isa core. That's the one that you placed, no, at the middle of the coil. The number of turns, this is the coil, and then also the strength of the current. The greater the current, the greater the electromagnetism that you induce. Okay. Okay. Number 81. Number 81 is also trivial, but maybe essential. This is in electronics. A three-terminal device whose output current, voltage, and power are controlled by its input current is what? So parang, what is an electronic device that controls current, voltage, and power? The same electronic device that we use in our cell phones, in our calculators, and computers. So 81, what's your answer? Okay, the answer here, medyo I'll move from the, I'll do it fast from the trivial and then I'll focus more on the more essential ones. So the answer is transistor. Okay, so transistors are the ones controlling the output current, voltage, and power. Okay, by its input current. Okay, next, let's go to 82. Remember, yesterday we talked about relative density. So oil floats in water because its relative density is lesser than 1.0. 1.0 is the relative density of water. What does that mean? If the substance has lower relative density than water, which is 1.0. Here, oil is 0.8. Siyempre, not all oil is 0.8. Iba-ibang klaseng oil yon. So in this example lang, what if the oil has a relative density of 0.8, this specific oil? What does that mean? So you have C, D, ano ba? C or D or something else? The relative density of a kind of oil is 0.8. What does that mean? See, remember that relative density is also one way to identify what kind of substance it is. Every relative density has a specific substance related to it and only for that related substance. Okay? So that's one way to know what kind of substance it is, unless otherwise it's not included in your matrix, no? Matrix of substance of relative density. But in this case, many answered none of the above is correct. Bakit kaya? Curious, no? But others said lighter than water. So that's the answer. So oil is lighter than water. That's why it floats in water. What is the Q? Because 0.8 is lesser than 1.0. 0.8 is oils and then 1.0 is waters. Of course, if the next example is higher than 1.0, therefore, it is heavier than water. So relative density can also be used to identify which floats to what. So maybe that's the question, no? Which floats to what. Number 83, a semiconductor used in personal computers has blank number of valence electrons. Okay, so we're talking about electronics right now, semiconductors, popular in these days. What is there? What is in the semiconductor that is really useful for computers in terms of valence electrons? See, Dan always number one, no, to give the answer. So Dan says C. GJ C. Mortap. Aladdin D. LVA. Tots C. Karen C. Okay. So, Macjo. Is it really ano? Macjo, why is your answer F? Then Juliet D. The answer here is 4. And then, ang pinaka-popular na semiconductor substance is silicon and germanium, di ba? That's why the one in California is called Silicon Valley, where you have computers there. Which is semiconductor, the bedrock of semiconductor computers is a semiconductor. It's made up of silicon or germanium. And silicon can be harvested from sand and many others. Medyo abundant naman ng silicon. But take note, if you look at their atomic structure, there are 4 electrons at the outer shell. And what does that mean kung 4? Diba, to complete the outer shell, should be 16 or 8. No? The four electrons in the outer shell goes to show that it can either be good, it can in small manipulation, it can be a conductor, and by minimal manipulation, it can also be a good insulator, depending on how you control the semiconductor. So, di ba, ang semiconductor, it controls electric flow. And what else? What element are you to use in order to control the electric flow, if not for silicon or germanium, where you can easily manipulate the flow of electron either way, as conductor or as an insulator. So 4 valence electrons. These are electrons at the outer portion of the shell. Number 84. This is vectors, no? Concept. 2 forces of 20 newtons and 10 newtons are directed toward the east. Meron kong third vector of 25 newton and it is directed toward the west. So what's the sum or the resultant of these vectors? 5 west, 5 east, 45 eastward, or 45 westward? Answers? 84. 84 answers, please. So you can use your scratch paper to visualize this, or you may even visualize this without any writings at all. So may sagot na B, si Dan, Jessie B. Okay, sino pa? Yeah, so we can visualize this one and then see kung ano yung sagot natin. May mga, si Tots D, si Tots Intisoy. Dalawa ba kayo who are answering it? Or isa lang si Tots? A, sure. A, not sure. GJ. Okay, let's see later, no? Para to make, for this problem to appear and for you to answer it with certainty. Let's try to understand bakit ganito yung answer. The answer is 5 Newton eastward. How did we solve for 5 Newton eastward? So meron tayong 20 Newton to the east. Tapos may 10 Newtons to the east, no? But meron 25 Newtons to the west. That's the third vector. Therefore, the resultant force will be 5 Newton to the east. Diba? So this is 30 minus 25 and you follow the direction which has the higher force, or yeah, in this case, force. So take note of that, no? So that's the reason why it's 5 newtons eastward. Okay, I hope the figure explains everything. The answer is B. Thank you. Congratulations. B, 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 B. Maraming answers. Rachel, Katrina, Eden, Cheta. 85. Now let's proceed to fluid dynamics. A diver who picks up a stone underwater and brings it to the surface finds that the stone is much heavier above the surface. So what principle does this explain? What what principle explains this observation? Okay, what principle explains this observation? 85. Number 85. Siyempre, mabigat yung stone if it's above water, and it's easy to lift it if it's underwater. Bakit? Ano kaya ang principle behind it? Pascal, Boyles, Bernoullis, or Archimedes? By association, some already have their answers. So when we talk about objects being lifted under fluids, ano kaya yung, if you talk about fluids, no? I think here parang fluids lahat, no, ng mga principle. But ano kaya? What is applicable to this situation? The answer is Archimedes. Okay? Letter A. Okay? Now, let us explain this. Now, for those who answered B, bakit hindi B? Let me explain it. Now, Archimedes states that here, no, medyo hindi lang clear, no? In this case, 5 kilogram yung weight, but if you place it underwater, it becomes only 2 kilograms ang weight niya. Bakit? Kasi it displaces water. Saan pumunta ang 3 kilograms? So it displaces water here, and the mass of the displaced water here is 3. This is 2. This is supposed to be 3. Okay, if this is 2 kilograms. Okay, so that is where the mass went. No, this is how you compute it also. So again, sa Archimedes principle, no, bumababa yung weight or yung mass in this case because based on the water or the fluid it displaces. The mass or the weight of the fluid it displaces is equal to the decrease of its weight now when it is submerged in the fluid. On the other hand, when you talk about Bernoulli's principle, it's like this. Diba? Remember, we had this number one item yesterday. So Bernoulli's principle states that if the motion of the air molecules, in this case, in the wing, if the motion is faster than the one at the bottom, then this one will have a sucking effect. No, the pressure here becomes less, and here the pressure becomes high. And so because of high pressure and low pressure here, the airplane wing is lifted up. No, another way of expressing Bernoulli's principle is this. No, if the flow of fluid here is slow, it becomes faster because of the minimum amount of cross-sectional area here. So this is another way of expressing a Bernoulli's principle. On the other hand, please do not forget other gas laws. No, so if you can still remember in your grade 9 PV NRT, that is your ideal gas law. P being pressure, V volume, M is the number of moles. Remember Avogadro's law, and then R is your gas constant, and T is your temperature. So in this case, Gay-Lussac has to do with pressure and temperature. Boyle's law has to do with pressure and volume, the relationship between it. Charles' law has to do with the relationship between temperature and volume. And Avogadro's law has to do with the relationship between volume and the number of moles. So, this one has all the laws already. Ang importante sa atin, ma-remember natin. This one has to do with Pascal's principle. Okay, this one. And this one has to do with with Archimedes' principle. So Pascal's principle, I already discussed at last yesterday. Okay? Kung Bernoulli's airplane and fluids, other fluids also. But it has to do, so Bernoulli in short, sabi ni GJ, no? Sa Bernoulli in short, it says that if the If the molecules are moving fast, pressure is low. Parang ganun yung concept. If the molecules are moving slow, pressure is high. So that's Bernoulli's. For boils, if the pressure is high, okay, the volume is low, no? So inverse. If we talk about Gay-Lussac, if the pressure is high, temperature is also high. So there's a relationship coming in here. So ang dami, medyo this is fully packed in terms of concept. Kung minsan kasi the question in the item is, what if the one is increased, the other, and all the other elements are constant, what will happen to this concept? So example, no, Avogadro's law, which has to do with volume and in the number of moles. So here it shows that the volume of the molecules is directly proportional to the number of moles, meaning the greater the volume, the greater the number of moles. So you can anticipate what will happen. Okay? So medyo marami yun. Jump back na concept yun. 86. The space between the walls of a double-walled thermos bottle is a vacuum. 2. Anong purpose ng vacuum inside the thermos? Okay. Okay. Number 86. Dial in your answers. We have 20 more items to go. And we only have 25 minutes more. So kaya siguro. The space between the walls of the double-walled thermos bottle is a vacuum to increase volume. Answers, please. Decrease convection heat transfer, reduce convection, or reduce heat transfer by conduction. So maraming concepts covered here. Alvi answered D, same with Dan. Christine D. Okay. Pwede niyong malagay kung ano kayo, basic ed, elementary ed, or just for me to know, no? At least in number 87 later, your answer, and then kung basic ed ka ba, or into BS ed na science, or TLE, or Filipino, para makita ko rin, ma-approximate ko rin, no? Just in number 87 later, para malaman ko kung sino yung mga kasama natin dito, ano yung mga specialization. So most of the answer is D. The answer is B. Okay? So B, no? So meron tayong vacuum in the thermos bottle to minimize convection. But when I say heat transfer, medyo redundant yan. Heat transfer, there are 3 ways. Excuse me. There are 3 ways to transfer heat: conduction, radiation, and convection. Now in the view here, it says convection, conduction, and radiation. D is the second right answer. Okay, D is the second right answer. Pero B is the first right answer talaga because it decreases all, no? Convection, conduction, and radiation altogether. Okay? So remember, the game is always choose the letter with the best answer. Okay? So merong social science, merong ED, merong math, may bioscience. Okay, now I can understand better, know where you're coming from. Okay, 87. Engines which use gases as fuel are blank. So we're talking about engines right now that use gases as fuel. What kind of engines are they? Okay. Okay, meron dito DIT, no? So, nag-DIT, now you're taking the test. Okay, sige. So, 87, engines which use gases as fuel are blank. Ano kaya? Maraming mga engines, so may external, may internal, may condensing type na turbines. Well, that one is not an engine. So that is why B is not the right answer. Attached to external bodies. Ano kaya? So the answer here is D. No? The one that you have in your cars, that's internal combustion engines. We place gas there in order for the engine to work. Okay? But merong external combustion engine. Ito yung nakita natin sa mga wild west na mga trains where we place coal inside it, but we see that the combustion is happening outside. Okay, but this one, the combustion is happening inside, and the combustion here is the reason why the crankshaft move, and this crankshaft is connected to the system where the tires are being moved also. Okay, so 87 is D. 88. Please, no, use your calculators, or if possible, if you can answer this one mentally. Conversion of the mass, no, this mass of the wrestler. So if the wrestler weighs 288 pounds, what is his weight in kilograms? I place quotation mark in the weight because the right term, the better term is mass. The mass of the wrestler is 288 pounds. What is the wrestler's mass in kilograms, therefore? Okay? Sige. So ano kaya yung answer sa 88? Anna already has the answer. C. Dan D. Christine C. Have you checked your scores? Dapat 50% plus 1 or higher yung scores natin. So Wilson, you're from TLE. I hope, no? I hope your items here are helpful to you, especially on electricity and electronics. LV, D. Okay. So if you weigh 288, that's the mass. Ano yan in kilograms? So the answer is D, correct? How did we solve D? Remember, in 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. Please remember that. No? Most of the time we are asked to convert or to express or to convert our weight, no, quote unquote weight, the mass, from pounds to kilogram or kilogram to pounds. So we might perhaps remember or memorize how many pounds are there in 1 kilogram. So that's 130.9. Let's remember, okay, most of the time, questions in physics are revolve in differentiating mass and weight. So this is one thing where this is one figure where we can clearly see the difference. Now, in space, there's no weight, okay, most of the time, especially if you're far from any heavenly body. The weight scale becomes 0, but your mass remains 10 kilograms. So in this example, in the moon, your mass remains at 10. Okay, there's a weight already, and there's a weight scale. Okay, so your weight in Newton is almost this is 16 newtons, but your weight scale or your mass is 1.6. This presumes that the G is 1/6 of that of the Earth. So here, if your mass on Earth is 10 kilograms, which is the same in moon and space, your weight scale is 10 kilograms. It's 10 kilograms pa rin, but your weight is 98 newtons. Okay. Okay. Weight scale is the one here in the scale. So 98 newtons. But how did we get 16 newtons here? Remember that you are in the moon. Your weight on Earth is 6 times as much as the weight in the moon. That is based on the mass of the moon. The mass is smaller compared to the Earth. Remember, your weight is dependent on where you are. The greater the mass of that place where you are, let's say Jupiter, it's 3 times as much as that of the Earth, or the Sun, worse, no? So mass remains, but weight changes depending on where you are. And on space, your weight is 0. Okay, take note. Now, let's proceed. And remember also that G changes. And sometimes, even on Earth, G is not 9.8. Sometimes in some tests, they presume that G is 10 meter per second squared. So, kahit hindi correct yung solution mo kasi you use 9.8, who knows, baka the maker of the test presumes that G is 10 meter per second squared. Now, here, another computation. You are asked to get your height in feet and inches, and the basketball player is 2.11 meters tall. So convert this height to feet and inches. This needs a lot of conversion, maybe to some. Okay, so please solve number 89. You have 20 minutes more. I think kaya natin to. Okay, I am waiting for your answers. Ano kaya? Dan said D. Maybe what is important here is how you compute it. Merong 6.9, merong 6.11 ang sagot. Advanced ba si Sir Dam? But importante dito na for us to answer it fast also. Fast but accurate, no? So, well, that's the rule in taking the let. No? But when I took the let, may mga sagot ako, but I'm not so sure, so I have to identify, no? I have to identify kung saan ako hindi sure so that I can go back if I still have time. But just make sure that you fill all the answers in. Okay, most of the answers are D, but merong B. Sige, let's see. The answer is D, and I understand some answered B because maybe they use other conversion. Take note that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. And when your answer is, for example, 6 point something, baka yung iba in their computation is 6.9. Take note that if it's 6.9 feet, it doesn't mean that it's 6 feet and 9 inches. 0.9 is 0.9 in a feet. So 0.9 feet is 11 inches, near to 11 inches. So that's where the confusion comes. Why some answered B. So remember, if your computation is 6.9 feet, it doesn't mean 6 feet 9 inches. You still have to convert 0.9 feet to inches. And most likely, it is near to 11 inches. That's why the answer is 11 inches. Okay, take note of that. That's usually the case in many of the reviews. No, so yeah, there's no excuse. No, in this case, this is the regular stuff that we need to compute correctly. 90. When light travels from air to glass, its speed lang decreases, increases in an undetermined state or remains the same. This is undetermined pala. I'll change that. Is undetermined. When light travels from air to glass, its speed decreases, increases, is undetermined, or remains the same. What do you think is the answer? Number 90. Anyari sa light when it passes through a glass? Will its speed remains the same, decrease, increase, or becomes undetermined? Okay. Ang ganda sa process na to is it either clarifies things or gives you a new perspective to the concept or affirms what you know already. So, let's see. May mga B, may mga A, may mga D. So, medyo divided tayo sa answer. Nelson says A. Okay. Now, let's see. The answer here is A. Now, to some who answered D, take note that although C or the speed of light is constant, that is constant if it goes in a vacuum. No, but when it passes through, that makes light very controversial. When light passes through solids or liquids, it slows down. But when it goes back again to vacuum, it goes back to its original speed, which is 200,000 kilometers per second. Look, I also place here wave, no, or mechanical wave, like sound, for example. So electromagnetic wave light, no, moves slower as the medium becomes more solid. Why? Because its motion is being slowed down by the molecules in that medium. On the other hand, mechanical wave needs a medium in order for it to propagate. So, siya, no? What's this? Baliktaran or inverse, no? In this case, if you talk about, for example, one example of mechanical wave is sound. In sound, in vacuum, it has no motion at all. Okay, but in gas, it it moves slower, but in liquid, it moves faster, and it's the fastest when it moves in solids. That's for sound or mechanical waves. But for light, or in like in all electromagnetic wave, light is one example. Remember the electromagnetic spectrum we had. It's the reverse, the inverse, no? So the more solid it passes through, the slower it gets. So take note of that, no? Iba sa light, nagre-resist ang mga molecules for light to flow. Sa mga mechanical wave naman, nag-help ang mga molecules in order for sound wave or mechanical wave to propagate. That's why sound travels fastest in solids. And it doesn't move at all in vacuum. On the other hand, electromagnetic waves like light moves slower or slowest in solids, but it moves the fastest. In fact, for electromagnetic waves like light, it goes back to its original speed, which is 300,000 kilometers per second or 300 million meters per second. So take note of that. No, I need to stress this one. Doppler effect, we still have 14 minutes to go. Number 91, the Doppler effect occurs when the source of sound moves blank, away from you, both towards and away from you, or in circles or towards you. What is the answer for number 91? If you watch The Big Bang Theory, si Sheldon, no? Sheldon loves to be the Doppler effect man. So ano kaya yung Doppler effect? And where is this connected to? Okay? I placed Doppler effect question here because this is one example of a thing that happens every day in daily life. And sometimes we forget how to explain them, no? So, well, that makes us different, no? If we know Doppler effect, and if this happens every day, we can explain it easily to others. So the answer here is B. And Doppler, pasensya na kayo sa mga entries, no? So, both towards and away from you, that's where Doppler effect comes. And for example, if the emergency car, no, moves towards you, malalaman mo it's moving towards you because the frequency becomes higher and higher. But malalaman mo rin that the emergency car is moving away from you because the frequency becomes lower and lower. And lower frequency means it's lower in terms of note. No? Higher frequency means higher note. So malalaman mo even if you are closing your eyes, if the person is going towards you or going away from you. And we know that, no, biologically, and that is because of Doppler effect. The explanation of which is Doppler effect. Our brain tells us that when the sound of the object is getting higher and higher in terms of frequency, that object is going towards you. Huh? So ang ganda, no, through evolution, we understood that, we just place a name to explain why that happens. So that's Doppler effect. Another computation, potential energy. A 3-kilogram body is at a height of 4 meters. What is its potential energy? So obviously, number 92 talks about potential energy. How are we to compute it? There's another item yesterday about this. Potential kinetic energy are concepts that usually appear in normal frequency in our science test or physics test or chemistry test or general science test. So what is our answer? How are we to compute this one? We still remember the potential energy equation. Okay, we have answers here. C, D, what else? Okay, let's see. I have to move fast. So you have answers here already. C, D, and Sheila and Alvi. C, and then D. So let's see. The answer is D. How did we get D? Remember, potential energy is mgh, mass times acceleration due to gravity g, and its height from the ground. So that's 3 kilograms times 9.8 meter per second squared times 4 meters. That's 117.6 joules. And joule again is the unit of energy. Joule also is the unit of work. Okay? And joule is Newton meter. Newton meter or kilogram meter squared per second squared. No? So don't forget those concepts. Let number 33. Again, no, I think we're all curious how submarines work. And all the other inventions related to submarines, even fish, no? Especially whales, no? Or well, of course, mammal. No? How do they dive? No? So how do submarines dive? When they dive, what do? They give off water back, they increase the speed in order to sink, they reverse the engine for submarine, or they take in water. What is happening no, in order for them to dive efficiently? Okay? Remember, about submarines were invented with whales as the inspiration of their inventors. So anong nangyayari whenever whales or submarines sink? In order for them to sink easily. So our answers here are B, D, B. So Izay said D, Alvi said B, Corazon said D. No kaya, the answer is they take in water. Diba? So in order for them to submerge in water or in fluid, say in seawater, they have to take in water. Diba? So that's why in submarines, there's a space there where they store the water that they take in. So, bumibigat siya, and because of that, it submerges easily. Okay? So, merong buffer dito where it controls the flow of water. Then, if it wants to bubble up, meaning if it wants to go up instead of sinking, then it has to release the water from here. We call this one the ballast, no? Okay, ballast. Amo man na, ganun din. The same thing with ships, no? For ships to be stable, they take in water, and there's a ballast. There's an area there where they can take in water and store it in order for it to be more balanced. And if they want to be less balanced and faster, then they push out the water inside. Take note of the concept of, this is the same concept they do for whales. No? Okay, 94. Sound waves with frequencies above 20,000 hertz are called what? So what do you call the sound waves with frequencies above 20,000 hertz? Ano nga yung frequency? Frequency is the number of cycles per second. So in this case, the cycle can be the number of waves, wavelength. So one wavelength or the number of wavelengths created per second. So what do you call that sound wave with 20,000 wavelengths per second? Or above 20,000 wavelengths per second. Okay? May mga sagot na tayo dito, fast, no? So D. The answer is ultrasonic. Okay, but more than that, remember the concepts. No, ultrasonic is beyond 20,000 hertz. The one that we can hear is 20 kilohertz. Within that range, no, 20,000 hertz to 20 hertz. So humans normally hear sound with frequency of 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Beyond 20,000 hertz, we call ultrasonic sound, or ultrasonic power or ultrasonic diagnostic, na the higher one. So here, may mga sound that dogs can hear. So ito yung remember yung mga sound na pinuproduce natin, the dogs react pero we cannot hear anything. So ultrasonic. Then there are other animals also. There are other animals also that can hear sound be below 20 hertz, like cockroaches. Okay? Seismic sound. Okay, you call that infrasound. So take note of the terms. Baka hindi ultrasonic yung hahanapin sa inyo during test. Baka infrasonic. Okay? Okay. So, meron tayong tinatawag na mga supersonic sound. Supersonic sound. Or for example, Uh, Iba naman to ang concept ng more than the speed of sound, di ba? So, Mach, no? Mach 1, meaning to say the object moves faster than the speed of sound. The speed of sound is usually mga 330 no, meter per second. That's the speed of sound normally no, in a particular normal temperature. By the way, sound travels faster in the higher temperature. Okay, sound travels faster if the temperature is higher. Sound travels slower if the temperature is colder. Okay, here, take note, sometimes in the test, you're given graphs. So this graph shows that it's quieter because the amplitude, that is the height from the equilibrium to the upper portion, this is crest, is low compared here. The height is higher, so this is louder. Okay? There are pitches, and the pitch represents frequency. This has lower frequency. Frequency is the number of wavelength, no, in a particular time. This has higher frequency because this is one wavelength. This is another wavelength. So it has two wavelengths at a length almost the same as this one. So this has higher pitch, higher note, or higher frequency. This is lower pitch, lower note, lower frequency. Number 95. We have 5 minutes na lang, so we can fast this, let this pass, no, sorry. When the car speed is double, its kinetic energy is blank. I have to move faster, sorry. So in this case, the answer is 4 times as large. How did we get 4 times as large? Speed is doubled, so all we need to do, the 1/2 m here becomes 1 because it's constant. So I'll just delve on the v, because v is doubled, so 2 squared. And 2 squared is 4. Okay? So if the speed is tripled, so this is 3 squared, then kinetic energy becomes 9 times as large. Okay? If the speed here is quadrupled, this is 4 squared, so the kinetic energy is 16 times as large. But here it's doubled, so 2 squared, 4 times as large. Okay, you don't need to answer this, but you can answer it nonetheless if you want. No, but I have to move this forward. The car has negative acceleration if the speed is blank. So when you talk about negative acceleration, what does that mean? Is it discrete? Is the speed decreasing, increasing, or neither, or constant? Okay, the answer here is, syempre kung negative ang acceleration, it decreases. It slows down, that's the other term. It's slowing down, that's the other term. Now, if it's moving fast, therefore the acceleration is faster, is positive, okay? Okay, 97. Dalawang atoms of the same element with different atomic masses. What do you call that? Okay. 2 atoms of the same element with different atomic masses. We call that isotopes. And isotope has the same protons. Here is isang proton, for example, sa hydrogen. But the neutron is different in number. So 0 neutron, protium. Isang neutron, deuterium. Dalawang neutron, tritium, yung tawag mo sa isotope ng hydrogen. Siyempre, every element, most of them have isotopes. Okay? And one popular isotope is the uranium isotope and plutonium isotopes. Okay? Or iodine isotopes. Take note of that. 98, if the following radioactive emissions are arranged in order with the least, increasing penetrating power, the least penetrating radiation first. So from lowest to the highest penetrating order, the answer in number 98 is A. Alpha has the lowest penetrating agent or capacity than gamma. So alpha ray, even sheet of paper, it cannot pass through, but gamma ray can pass through even to thin plates. Neutron ray has the strongest. 99, the interaction of waves that meet at the same point is called, maraming concepts to. Maraming concepts. So 99 is interference. So interference is the interaction of waves. If the waves are the same and in sync, then you end up with destructive interference. Like here, but if the waves are, if the waves are the same and in sync, that is constructive. If they are inverse, so they will cancel each other, we call that destructive interference. Also, there are other concepts in waves: diffraction, refraction, and dispersion. White wave, white light is the light wave. The normal one is dispersed using the prism, and you have the rainbow with you. But diffraction is another concept, and refraction, the bending of wave, is another concept. What can you conclude about two boys having the same weight and climbing at the same height of stairs at different time? So this is another question that you have to get used to. This has to do with you differentiating work and power. So jump na lang ako. If they do this one, meaning they have the same work, but they use different power. Remember, like here A and B, both may have the same work, okay? But both may not have the same power because one can do it faster, therefore has greater power, and one can do it slower, therefore has lesser power. Okay, remember the concept of work and power. They can have the same work, but they can differ in power. Okay. Okay, number 101, that's last 5 na lang. Nuclear power plants produce energy through, and the answer is nuclear fission. Okay, so nuclear power plants, what happens there is nuclear fission. What happens in the sun is nuclear fusion. And the difference is here. No? So fission is splitting of atoms. Fusion is combining of atoms. Okay, the one in the sun is called hot fusion, but the one that the scientists now are working with is the cold fusion. Because fusion produces more energy than fission, we hope that we can eventually unveil how to do fusion in cold temperature or in normal temperature because it gives a lot of energy. 102 in air conditioners, when used, makes the whole room cold through what? Because of what concept? Air conditioners are placed in one place, but it makes the whole place cold because of convection. Okay, convection. Now, and then take note of the different transfer of heat concept: conduction, convection, radiation. 103. Joule is to thermodynamics, the unit for thermodynamics, as Max Planck is to what? Okay. By the way, Joule here is the scientist pala, not the unit. So if the scientist is thermodynamics, Max Planck is what area in physics? So the answer here is quantum physics. By the way, this is Newton. This is Electromagnetism. This is Maxwell. James Clerk Maxwell. This is Michael Faraday, electromagnetism. And this is Max Planck, quantum physics. They all sport different hairdo. Last two. When a stone is brought to the moon, the only property it has that will change is what? The only property it has that will change is what? The answer is weight lang. Okay, the mass, the size, the density will be the same. The assumption here is the temperature remains the same. Of course, if the temperature is lesser, then the size shrinks. The density therefore increases. But most likely, if the temperature remains the same, the weight changes. Okay, last. If a large dynamite fishing explosion were to occur about 3 kilometers away from you, you will blank. No, this is the combination of the concept of the speed of light and the speed of sound. Practically, if the dynamite explosion is to occur 3 kilometers away from you, what will you experience? Will you see and hear the explosion at the same time? Letter B, see the explosion after hearing it. Only see the explosion, or D, hear the explosion after seeing it. Okay, maybe because this is the last, I need to see your answers. We have extended to 5 minutes. Sorry for that. After this, we are good to go. So we have B, D, B, D, B, D. Ano kaya? Is it B or D? Good thing you did not answer A or C. So you cannot see or hear that at the same time or see the explosion only because it's 3 kilometers from when it's dynamite and you can hear that for sure. But saan kaya? Is it B or D? So the answer is D. You can hear the explosion after only seeing it because in this case, you see it first because light travels faster. okay, before the sound. Okay, they take note, sound travels normally at a specific temperature na normal, 343. This is, I think, temperature ng mga tropical countries. But sometimes it's lower than this because if the temperature is colder. But take note, sound travels faster when the temperature increases. And light is traveling at 300 million meters per second. So, yeah, that's all for today. Thank you so much. And Ma'am Meg, take it away. I hope that by September, you will all be more ready in taking the test. The exam.
Yes. Okay, so that ends. Yes, that ends the discussion po of Doc H. Now that's part 4 of General Science. So hopefully, meron pa rin tayong chance na makasingit sa kanyang very busy schedule prior to your level.
No
So,
problem.
yes, all these items may seem very vague, may seem very abstract, no? But we all see that these are all very practical, no? Nakikita talaga natin in real life. And of course, most importantly, ito talaga yung mga items na makikita nyo sa LET, no? So hopefully, ang nakatulong talaga si Doc H, apat na parts yung natapos ni Doc H with you. And of course, we appreciate your time, Doc H.
No
Your
problem.
Maraming salamat po for the dedication, no? Si Doc H kahit na mag-extend, tatapusin niya talaga kung anong merong items. Yes, I'm pretty sure marami pang hindi na-discuss.
Yeah. One thing best with science is that it doesn't end anywhere. It will always be a constant wrestling with the truth, no? So, but the ultimate truth is the one that we serve the most. So, kaya nga, to end this, Mamek, no, ang sa akin lang is for everyone to pass in their let and be the best teacher that they can be. Meaning to say, ang definition ko kasi ng best teacher is for you to journey with your kids with the truth and to end up having kids and you yourself as models of goodness, no? Good love and service to everyone. Thank you.
That's right. Very Ateneo, no? Of course, we are all influenced by this. Until now, kahit saan ako mapadpad, nandyan pa rin sa akin yung values na tinuro ng Ateneo. Maraming salamat, Doc H. And of course, for those of you who have who are asking, no, merong nag-ask dito, sana may files. Meron na po tayong files na ipasa na po ni Doc. And so, if you are a member of our teams, you will see the files later, no? So after this, I will be uploading the files there. Maraming salamat po, Doc H, again.
No problem. Maraming salamat. You just give me a call. I can say no to you, anak.
Okay, thank you po. All right, so everyone, please join us as we close this activity with our closing prayer.
As we end our activities tonight, O Lord, we want to thank you for your innumerable provisions. Thank you so much, O God, for all the things that you have done to us. We wait and hope for you. You are our sure reward. Please keep us safe of this whole week. In the mighty name of Jesus, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. So once again, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat mga kaguro, sa lahat ng tumutok, no, kahit mahina yung net, kahit na medyo malalim na ang gabi, no, maraming salamat. And of course, we are coming back on Saturday with Gen Ed and Prof Ed, okay? For the list of all the things that we are going to have in the following month, in May, nakapost na po sa ating Facebook page. This has been Coach Mac, of course, with a big help coming from my mentor, my sensei, Doc H. And we leave you with the saying, maliit man na butil ng mga kaalaman, ang dulo nito ay malaking kaginawaan. Maraming salamat! Good night, Philippines! Bye!